Welcome back to Engineering Graphics. In this lesson, we're going to learn how to draw our blocks orthographically. And if you've never drawn anything orthographically before, it can be a little bit confusing. But if you start with your isometric paper, that tends to make things a lot easier. And if you don't have any, you can just use your 60-degree triangle and do the same thing. So when we're drawing isometric drawings here, this is running at a 60-degree angle, this one's running at a 120-degree angle, and our verticals are running at 90 degrees. So we want to use our triangle to find our lines and make things as dimensionally accurate as we can. So to start block 2, we draw the entire base of it, full size. So this, if you set the block down on this, the bottom of it would cover that. And we draw things in rectangles and squares simply because they help guide us. It makes it much simpler. So hopefully as we move through this you'll understand. So once we have our base drawn, the bottom of our block, the front of our block is raised this distance, so we drew it as a rectangle. We'll convert it to its final shape in a little while. Then we do the same thing with the back half of it. So the back half, we've got our block and our rectangle inside of our block, and the back half of it comes up higher. So we draw this to the correct height on both ends and then turn it into a pair of rectangles. I've also added these equidistant out from this, so this measures X, so this measures X to these. They're going to be used for guiding to help us create the next part of our block. So once we've got that, I drew lines from those corners to the opposites and did the same thing over here. Once we know where they are, we can just erase what is out here, and now our block has our mitered corners like it's supposed to. Then once we have that shape, we continue on doing the same thing, but this time we do it on the top. So whatever our distance setback was, we applied to both sides, and we did it on both corners. And now we just have to erase the lines, and we've got our block in its final form. And the reason I did this block first instead of the rounded one, they're nearly identical other than a few steps in how we draw them. So if we go back to this one and look at it, to draw the third block, we draw it very similar. We draw our base rectangle, we draw our first rectangle, we draw our second rectangle. Then instead of so when I drew the offset back and the offset up, instead of connecting them diagonally, I just drew the same amount down and the same amount over, which you can see here. So same block. The only thing I did was, instead of drawing it, drawing a 45 from here to here and here to here, I drew a 90 and a 90. And I stayed on, followed our 60 and 120 degree lines. So these are 90, these are 120, and these are 60, just like we've been doing. So once we've got it that far, this is the block with the curved edges, which we're about to get to. And the first thing once we have this, now we can come and identify the points where we place our compass. So the sharp pointy end of the compass is placed on each one of these purple dots. And what we're going to do is, next we're going to identify the points that we're going to, so once we have our compass here, we need to know what point we're going to go from here to there, which we identified now with these red points. So we still got our purple ones, that's where our compass goes. We set it to be this far from there, and then before we mark anything, we move it over here and we check it, make sure they line up correctly before we write anything. And we do that as we're working our way around it. And it's typically easier to do these ones in the back first, then do the ones in the front. And the same here, do your back ones, because this one actually arcs from here to there, and this one arcs from here to here, and do the same thing all the way around. In this case, I would definitely erase my guidelines now that you know where your points are. And once you have that, you can actually draw your arcs. So you've got your, and notice that the center of the arc actually follows the lines of along from where the point was through the point to the center of the arc. So the arc is arcing right along the same line as that was, but it's just cutting off the ends. And same over here, it's, you know, instead of pointy, it's just rounded now. Same back here. Put your compass here, go from there to there. And down here works the same way. You just put your compass where it point where it belongs, and then go from your red dot to your red dot. And we've got the same thing going on here. So these lines in here are no longer needed. We can just erase them because we've got our arc. And once we erase everything and clean it all up, there's our next block. So the two are nearly identical. You just slightly different methods of converting them from the rectangles to the round overs. Hope that was interesting. See you in the next video.